Bro, I have no idea how long that was out. I hate it here. Okay, so I have no idea how long and what. Basically, they went on for a little bit. She was moaning as she was basically dying, and he said, I asked her, who did this to you? Don't protract this any longer. How did the woman respond? She didn't. She said nothing in response. But when in the stand, you will answer the questions asked of you unambiguously. Now, without evasion or reticence, I demand that you amend your testimony. I will! I asked her who did this to you, but she never replied. Hold it. So you tried to find out who the culprit was. Here's a moment. He who asks a question is a fool for a minute. He who does not remains a fool forever. And having been labeled a criminal twice during my time in Great Britain, I was quick to make up my mind. Better be a fool for a minute than remain a fool in prison forever! However, you've indicated that the victim failed to respond, is that correct? I know why. I know why the Englishwoman said nothing. She was ignoring me because of my stupid mustache! It's because I'm Japanese! Oh dear, so Sasuke-san really has developed a dislike for the English, it seems. Having read the report on his time in Great Britain, I can't say I'm surprised at his xenophobia. But the Englishwoman didn't ignore you at all! Did she, Mr. Right-Man? Well, yes, alright. She did respond in a manner of speaking, I suppose. She just lifted a trembling finger and pointed to the direction of the defendant. Hold it! Miss Brett pointed a finger at the defendant. Sasaki-san, is that really true? It's not easy to stand here and say this, but when we first entered the beach hut, the Englishwoman was sprawled on the floor before us, and the student was sitting on the far side of her. And when I asked, who did this to you? The Englishwoman summoned her last ounce of strength to point a trembling finger at the back of the hut, which was, it can't be denied, in the direction of the student girl who stands accused today. No, she was standing, pointing past the hole. No. So, hey-san, why on earth did you neglect to admit this in your original testimony? But, for fiddlesticks, I say! This is not a British court of law. You will respond in Japanese. Yes, of course, the Englishwoman did point her finger towards the back of the hut. But I was trembling, and she was trembling, and everything was a blur. And thinking about it, I feel as though perhaps she was pointing in a slightly different direction. Actually, no, not slightly, in a very different direction to where the student girl was standing. To somewhere at the back of the hut, where nobody was standing at all. You mean that your memory of the events and the direction in which the victim was pointing are both unclear? Yes, that's it! Unclear! I'm very, very unclear. Objection! Your Excellency, surely this proves the matter beyond all reasonable doubt. Yes, the woman may barely have been conscious, and yes, perhaps her finger waved slightly. But there can be no doubt that this was an attempt by the victim to confirm the identity of her assailant. Why? Because as the court can see, there was no one other than the accused in the direction she was pointing. It is now abundantly clear that no one besides the accused could possibly have committed this crime. I am inclined to agree. And in the absence of any credible argument to the contrary, I believe we can now conclude this trial. No. No! The headline's writing itself. Dashing lawyers, hopes dashed. Thank you, point across the whole page. We'll do an extra edition. This is a serious blow, Sasato. Unless we're able to identify the true culprit and substantiate our claim with evidence, The judge will give his ruling, and the trial will be over. But that's impossible, Father! We don't even know how the crime was committed yet! Impossible though the task may seem, we have no choice. We must think back over everything we've learned thus far. Somewhere in all those details, I'm confident we'll find the clue we need. Ray gave us her account of how the events unfolded in the defendant's antechamber before the trial resumed. She showed us what happened, the precise moment Miss Brett was killed. The Englishwoman was sitting at the back of the hut, listening to what I was saying. And then, a moment later, she suddenly got to her feet. Before collapsing on the floor in front of me, with a knife in her back. Miss Brett had been stabbed in the back in a beachhead that was empty but for herself and Ray. Somewhere amid the information we've gathered so far, there must be an answer to that question. Okay, one second. I want to... I take it then that the defense has nothing further to add.
So the gallant yokel student's luck fully runs out. I can't say I'm surprised.
In that case, I am ready to deliver my final verdict on this matter. This is a crucial turning point now. If I can't establish what really happened, it's over. Where was the real culprit hiding? And how did he or she stab the victim? I know how, I think.
Objection!
Your Excellency, I respectfully ask you to propose to you your education for the time being. Oh, to what end, counsel? The defense would like to present the court with an alternative theory. An alternative theory that can explain who the victim was actually trying to implicate with her dying jester.
Objection!
An alternative theory? Ha! None exists.
Objection!
There was someone else present at the scene who could have committed the crime.
What?
And the victim, Miss Brett, tried to reveal who it was to those who were around her at the time by mustering all of her remaining strength and pointing a trembling finger in the killer's direction.
This is fiction! Fantasy!
Very well, you seem so sure of yourself, counsel. I am prepared to hear your alternative theory. So, young Ryuhataro Naruhado? Yes, Your Excellency. You will present your latest theory to the court by means of this plan. The moment the victim was stabbed, where exactly are you proposing the culprit was concealed? Oh, baby.
Take that!
Naruhado-san would never give up. And I'm a Naruhado now. Not exactly how I thought she was going to have the Naruhado name, but I mean, there we go when you say it like that. The true culprit who fatally stabbed Miss Brett was concealed in this location here. Are you mad, counsel? You're suggesting the culprit was outside the hut?
What?
No. But the student Lord Naruhado and Esquire, that makes no sense at all. You just pointed out the exact spot where I was hiding to get my scoop snap. But I didn't see a suspicion of what I was learning about. I can swear to that, bro. You're not thinking.
Obviously, if the culprit had been outside the hut, there's no way he or she could have stabbed the victim who was inside the hut.
Actually, Prosecutor Ayuchi, there is a way. Huh? And, in point of fact, the defense can provide evidence strongly suggesting that is precisely the way Miss Brett was killed.
You're bluffing! You're bluffing! You yokel!
The defense dissertation is clearly too fantastical for the court to comprehend. You will need to give us more guidance, counsel. What piece of evidence corroborates your theory that the victim was stabbed from the outside of the hut? This one here.
Take that!
Well, I've presented it now, but I haven't the first idea why I chose a piece of evidence. Counsel, you're suggesting that this piece of evidence bears your theory as to how the victim was stabbed. It's something of a windfall, Your Excellency.
The word you're looking for, Counsel, was downfall. What? Excuse me?
If your theory is correct, and the knife was thrust into Miss Brett's back from the outside of the hut, there should be a visible trace somewhere. A trace, yes, on the hut itself. Armed with that idea, I must look through the court record again. Excellent. Yeah. Different piece of evidence. Go ahead. Okay. I was gonna investigate it first. Look, the original photographic print of the crime scene? Okay, well, same idea, different piece, different picture. It's the hole in the back. Yes, it's clearly visible in this print. The trace of the fatal thrust that was delivered from outside the beach hut. I love how she tried to justify her own mistake that we made for her.
Objection!
Do you take us for fools? There's no hint of any such thing.
I'm not sure that everyone present would agree.
Someone, at least, appears to have noticed what I'm referring to.
Counsel, once again I must call on you to be explicit to the court. Where on this photograph is the trace of the stabbing in which you claim to take the blood outside the hut?
Take that!
Look closely, just here. Zoom. In the screen, at the back of the hut, you can see the effects of a blade having been forced through the reeds. No, I can't! I can't see any such thing!
It's true that the hut in question had 4 walls, as you'd expect, however. By parting the reeds, a knife blade could easily penetrate them. This is extraordinary!
Yes. The true culprit actually stabbed the victim from outside the beach hut.
Ah!
And of everyone present at the scene, there is only one person who could have done that. Only one person who was directly outside the hut when Miss Brett was killed. Rated Menimento-san, it could have only been you.
No! Damn!
Objection!
This preposterity leaves me almost speechless. Just look at the photograph again. The victim lies almost exactly the center of the beach hut, does she not? Are we to assume as part of this farcical scenario that the assailant was a knife thrower?
Objection!
No, of course not. We're not? If you recall the testimony of the defendant about the events just before the victim's death.
Inside the beach hut, I confronted Miss Brett. But she just sat on a stool at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly as if she knew something. She was untouchable. Ladies and gentlemen, we got it.
A stool?
Have another look at the photograph. Loser.
The slit in the reed screen would align perfectly with the back of a person who was sitting at that stool.
My word! So, in fact, the victim was
Killed while sitting on that stool by a stab wound in her back delivered through the reed screen. Ah! Having been attacked, Miss Brett rose to her feet indistinctively. But then, unable to speak, she collapsed on the floor in the middle of the hut. Before the defendant, Mimbami-san's appalled eyes. And that, Your Excellency, is the truth of what happened on the beach that day. By your silence, Memento-san, I take it that you don't deny the charge.
This is the most I've ever used this voice ever.
This is absurd!
That will do! It would appear that we have attacked admission of guilt from the witness. Accordingly, this court has successfully established the truth of this matter, which means that the defendant, Mimbami-san, is the innocent of the crime. Oh, thank goodness. Time for a left hook. I finally made him cave. I must say, I've never been more proud.
No, this can't be! The Ayuchi clan can't! What of my growth? My growth of hope? It wasn't all an aberration! I can't accept this! I won't!
I see no reason for the continuance of this trial. I will therefore move to conclude the proceedings by delivering my final verdict and... Waiting for it. There we go. Who is it now? Well, this is all very convenient. This is how the highest court in our mighty empire delivers justice, is it? Suppressing well-meaning citizens' freedom to speak and branding them as criminals. But we've established that the victim was stabbed from the outside the hut through the reed screen walls. And no one but you was not in the place at the time to have this hand on the hilt of the blade. It's a perfectly logical deduction. So your argument hinges on the location of whoever stabbed the Englishwoman, does it? Well, it seems a little irrelevant now. Irrelevant? Where she was stabbed, how she was stabbed. It doesn't matter. I mean, whether she was stabbed at all makes no difference if you think about it. After all, this trial's already shown the whole thing hinges on something else. What? Unhairs your head. What are you talking about? Brace yourself, little man! I'm talking about the fact that everything's changed. Because of the dirt you dug up! What? Enough obscurity. Explain. Get their voices mixed up. Enough obscurity. Explain yourself, witness. I'm tired of this dilly-dallying! What's to explain? I'm talking about the poison, of course. How would you know? The poison? Let me ask the professor for a comment on the situation, shall we? I understand that a deadly poison you were developing was stolen from your laboratory, correct? It has been shown that this poison was administered to the victim, Miss Brett. Is that correct? Is that right? That is correct. The unusual construction of the victim's pupils are a sure sign that this particular poison was used. I see! So, presumably that means that the victim already had the poison in her body before she was stabbed. Ah! Yes. Given that her pupils were clearly constricted, it seems highly likely, yes. As if she had been dead already, the poison... If she had been dead already, the poison could not have circulated in her blood. The professor is like... That's bullshit! Oh, he just calmed himself. Ah, how refreshing to hear the argument of the metropolitan mind. Precisely, it matters not a jot who stabbed whom and whose back it was, whose blade. Because, quite simply, the Englishwoman's life was taken not by the knife, but the poison. The exact argument I wasn't making an hour ago.
Objection!
But that can be explained by the poison being on the blade, as I already...
Objection!
Forgot it already, have we, yokel? During these very proceedings, the laboratory of the professor at your side isn't improving. That the blade of the weapon used to attack the victim had no trace of poison on it whatsoever. Ugh. You're supposed to defend this. So let me get this down. The facts, as you have skillfully established by the defense in this trial, turned out to be a headline-making red herring. Is that about right? Well... Ah! Dude, just blasting her. Order! But where does this leave us? How, in that case, did the poison enter the victim's body? There is an undeniably obvious answer to that. The lady most likely embedded it. Wait, what? What? You mean she drank it? Yeah, I was about to say. Have another look at the photograph here. As you can see, you have the wine, the spilled wine. A bottle of carbonated water and a glass had been knocked into the sandy floor of the beach hut. The poison could have been slipped into either. So somebody made Miss Brett drink it. Well, what do you know? Look at these dashing eyes. This will make a great front page shot. Hey! Why the bewitching stare? After all, I'm the last person you should be looking at. It would make no sense at all if I poisoned the woman, would it? I mean, that's been established already.
Hold it!
Established? What are you talking about? Don't tell me you've forgotten. That's a little hard to believe, given that the person who established it was you. Me? What on earth does he mean?
Oh, let me capture those wide eyes. This is a prime press photo, this is. Take pictures ever, yes. It would seem that this trial is not destined to end yet, after all. I hereby call upon the witness to give further testimony. That's great, that is. Let me get a shot of that magnificent beard, Your Excellency. You claim it to be impossible that you were the one responsible for administering the poison to the victim. You explain to the court to tell me the basis on which you make that claim. I'm a journal and a man. I've never tried to run or hide from anything in my life. I'm not about to start now, because that's mementoism. For a brief moment, I thought I'd illuminated the truth, but it slipped right back into obscurity again. Just where is this trial going to take us? This trial is simply never going to end. Yeah, Junior, you're just a pussy. Oh, yes! I stabbed the Englishwoman. And that is the very fact proves I'm innocent. Because why would I bother to stab the woman if I've already poisoned her? When I heard the student girl and that pompous English murderer arguing, it got my goat. If the courts weren't going to punish Brett for what she did, someone else would have to see justice done. Bro, wait, what? He just admitted to stabbing her. So, you admit it then, that everything happened as I described. That you are the one who stabbed Miss Brett in the back through the reed screen. You can blame this miserable country of ours. A country that bows to the pressure of foreign powers and lets murderers walk free. What kind of future can a country like that have? That's why I did it. I did what our pathetic leaders didn't have the guts to do. Slap bang in the middle of the charming lady's back. I plunged the blade of sweet justice right in there. The blade of sweet justice is what he calls us. As someone who spends his life seeing the truth is told, I feel really, really awful about giving you false information in my testimony before. But as it turns out, there was somebody else who had it in for the victim and got to her before me. That's right. You guessed it. The pretty little student girl. And now there's a woman after my own heart. You're implicating Ray again. She's the one who gave the poison to the Englishwoman and ended her pitiful existence. And suddenly, snap, this journal here is off the hook. Not really. The argument is sound, certainly. If the witness had administered the poison himself, he need only have waited for it to take effect. Subsequently stabbing the victim back would have been entirely nonsensical.
And therefore, this reporter had nothing to do with the poisoning. Yes, it's all quite logical.
That's right. It is logical and true. I'm glad you've all seen the light. Justice at last. This is unbelievable. And after I'd made so much progress in proving his guilt, is he gonna get away with it now? Think of Kazuma-sama and Naruhito-san. They never stopped looking for a way forward until the judge's final gavel. Very well then, counsel. Proceed with what I assume to be your final cross-examination in this trial. Are we almost done? Dang, son.
Yes, Your Excellency. Finally, this voice is almost over.
Stabbing? Well, that's the sucky part. He technically stabbed a corpse, which isn't technically illegal.
Hold it.
So, you do admit that you had murderous intentions towards Miss Brett, then?
Ha! The woman's very existence offended my sense of justice.
Your sense of...
He's claiming some sort of righteous indignation? She was pure evil, a cold-blooded killer who committed murder right here on our empire's soil. He's not wrong. But did our good-for-nothing government do anything? Not a chance! So I had to step in. Fly the flag of justice! Put things right for the people! Yes, it was my civic duty. That's what drove me to do it.
So, in summary, murderous intentions, then.
Whatever you want to call it, the point is this. That Englishwoman was a blight. So I had to do what was right for society.
Yet a real wrong was done by the student girl in the dock. A crime for which she must pay.
Obviously, because the poisoning was nothing to do with me at all. You don't have to do that voice, but it was funny.
Hold it.
It's too late to stop now.
So you still maintain that you didn't give the poison to the victim?
Obviously, that'd be like putting a belt on your trousers when you were already wearing braces. Like these. They call those braces.
The accused administered the poison, following which the witness stabbed the victim. An unforgivable act, certainly, but not one of murder. That crime rests on the accused's shoulders. That is how the law works, you see, yokel. Who knows? You may even learn something here today.
2 consecutive attempts on her life in the space of minutes? What a day for the victim. Do something that evil and you've got it coming. That's how the law works. The law of reckoning.
That's not the kind of law this court upholds.
You will reiterate why you were compelled to stab the victim then, witness. When I heard the student girl that... Okay, I didn't need to do that again.
Hold it.
What exactly were they arguing about?
About what happened in the restaurant 9 months ago, that's what. The student girl was laying into the English one for killing her beloved mentor, Dr. Wilson. Yes, John H. Wilson. Professor of medicine, invited here from England by Professor Manitoba, no less. Right, but the Englishwoman just jeered.
Her case was to be heard by the British consular court in Shanghai, however. There is little doubt she would simply have been acquitted and sent back to her homeland a free woman.
It was eating that student girl up inside. You could see it. I really felt for her. Wait, who said hold it? Oh, she's here now, too. I can't. I can't sit here and listen to this tripe. Ray.
Yeah, girl, you stand accused here. You can't just blurt out whenever you feel like it.
No, you can't. Sorry, but I'm in the middle of some very important testimony here. Just keep quiet and listen. Why is that man still here? But this awful man is making all of this up. Sasato, please, you have to make them listen. Return to the dock at once, Mimbami-san. You're in the middle of a cross-examination.
Hold it.
Your Excellency, please, I implore you. That journalist is clearly not a trustworthy witness.
Exactly. He's a filthy, rotten, black-hearted, bigoted, great peeping Tom. Dirty, great peeping Tom. Whoa, take it easy there.
Please, I really think the court should hear what the defendant has to say. Your Excellency, I see no need whatsoever to entertain the accusant's remarks.
I will grant the request of the defense.
What? But, Your Excellency!
This is likely to be the final cross-examination of these proceedings. As such, I believe it would be ill-advised to stifle the defendant's obvious concerns. Finally, a brain cell. So well as recognizing that this contravenes regular protocol, I hereby call upon the defendant to speak.
Oh. Thank you so much, Your Excellency.
It was nothing to do with Dr. Wilson. We were discussing the stolen poison.
Hold it.
The stolen poison that killed the victim, you mean? I suspect her of being the one to steal it. I mean, just think about how she killed Dr. Wilson.
That's true. Additionally, Miss Brett certainly had knowledge of the new poison. But surely it would be no easy task to steal a highly secret toxin being developed for the government.
Indeed, all visitors to the laboratory are thoroughly searched when they leave. Even if they manage to avoid being seen by myself or a colleague, getting the poison out would be very difficult.
That's true! I pestered Professor Manitoba until he agreed to show me the poison when I visited his laboratory. But as I left, I was searched from top to tail. Miss Brett rather bluntly revealed the existence of the toxin we've been developing, you see. And since Sosaki-san expressed an interest in it, I felt unable to refuse. Obviously, I gave nothing away, other than the fact that it was an extremely potent substance. I'm very ashamed of myself. It's just that I have had a singularly terrible experience with a deadly poison. I wanted to look my old enemy in the eye! Surely you can understand that!
To find out if my suspicions were true, I confronted Miss Brett about the poison.
And leans forward in their seats. I told her that if there were to be an incident involving it somehow, it wouldn't just be the university. The military would be dragged into it. The whole government, even. It would be a complete disaster. And how did Miss Brett respond to your concerns?
She just curled those beautiful lips of hers and said she didn't know the first thing about it. In English, actually.
Ah, yes. Memento-san, one small question if you don't mind. I do mind! Can't you see I'm busy? Clearly you were outside the beach hut listening in, while as the defendant and Miss Brett were conversing. Presumably then, was it you who wrote this article about what you heard? Exclusive! Deadly poison stolen from Yumi Medical Research Laboratory. The story was published in this morning's edition of Shuyo News. The details are too accurate for it to have been written by anyone else. Sorry, don't know what you're talking about. Yes. Look at this! The entire article. It's almost what I said to Miss Brett. Word for word. Huh!
Well, Memento-san?
As a journo, and as a citizen of a free country, I don't have to reveal my sources. That's a founding principle of mementoism. Father's clearly right about this. That reporter did write that article, and he based it on what he overheard from outside the hut. Updated. So that's what this is all about. You were trying to cover up the fact that you were listening in. That's why you came up with that stinking story about me arguing with her. Shut up! My stories never stink. Look, whatever you say, little girl, doesn't alter the facts. Your Excellency, there's nothing I want to say, and I want it to go on record. Very well. You may amend your formal testimony. Stop breathing, bro. The point is, if you poison someone, there'd be no reason to go and then stab the person as well.
Hold it.
Perhaps you doubted the efficacy of the potion and sought to make sure your victim would die.
That's horse dung!
What?
That would be like pouring pepper on your Chinese ramen before you even tasted it. Completely reckless. Although, it might surprise you to learn that I'm a bit of an impure pepper pourer as it happens. Once the victim had taken the poison, she would have only been minutes away from death. And yet, this man then proceeded to stab her in the back as well. There has to have been a good reason for that. If it was a reporter who gave the poison to Miss Brett, then clearly, he must have done it prior to Ray entering the hut. Yes, that's undeniable. But between him leaving the hut and the victim being stabbed, there was one very crucial change in the situation. Sorry? Wait, what change? The reporter overheard the conversation between Ray and the Englishwoman. Ah, yes, that's it. That's when Memento-san first found out the exact nature of the poison he'd used. That could be the key here. If the victim had unwittingly taken the poison already, the reporter would have no reason to stab her. On the face of it, that logic sounds entirely reasonable. But there's no question that this man was responsible for Miss Brett's murder. If we could think of a plausible explanation as to why he might have stabbed her even after the poisoning, I feel sure that everything would drop into place. That's what I feel we should be looking for. Yes, I agree. And in order to do that, I must try to glean more information. Hold on. I need to check something. Oh, I guess it's not time for that. I'm like, I need to test this. Alright. Okay, let's see. From activated lawyer mode. I need to figure out what I'm missing. I'm gonna assume, make an assumption.
Yes! Well, I can think of one reason.
What? What?
But before I explain, I'd like you to confirm something for the court. Did you glean all the information for this newspaper article from what you overheard outside the hut?
Of course he did. There can be no question of that. After all, when we were all in the laboratory together, we were all told it was a terrible toxin.
And there's one more important fact to consider. According to the witness, Mimbami-san's verbal attack against the victim began as soon as she entered the hut. In other words, it would have been impossible for her to have slipped the poison into Miss Brett's drink.
Objection!
Where are you going with this, counsel? Memento-san has made it clear that he observed every single thing that happened in the beach hut. If the defendant had somehow found an opportunity, this man would have seen it.
Ah! Which means that Miss Brett couldn't have embedded the poison in which the defendant was present. In fact, it must have been administered to her before Mimbani-san entered the hut. Yes, very articulately put. When I walked into the hut, I immediately started to press Miss Brett about the poison.
At which point, Memento-san overheard some worrying information.
Worrying information? I'm not worrying information!
The information which he subsequently included in this newspaper article, namely, that the poison was being developed in strict secrecy and that it couldn't be readily obtained.
Absolutely. In fact, that's quite an understatement. The only possible place it could come from is my lab.
And furthermore, anyone affected by the poison would exhibit telltale signs of death.
The extreme condition of the constriction of the pupils, yes, it's quite stark when you see it. There are other poisons that show similar symptoms, but not amongst new substances that are undetectable.
In other words, it would be clear that the victim's life had been ended by the use of this particular poison, which would reduce the number of suspects to only a handful of people.
Ah! Everyone in my laboratory is aware of the unique properties of the toxin we're developing. None of them would be foolish enough to attempt to use it for some nefarious deed. Mimbani-san being no exception.
Therefore, we can conclude that whoever administered this unique poison to the victim was a layperson unaware of its telltale properties.
Yeah!
In other words, someone like you, Reitan Memento.
Mimbaza?
It was you who stole the potion from the laboratory that day. It was you who administered it to the unwitting victim. But you quickly realized that it was a terrible mistake.
Because the poison in turn caused such unusual symptoms and was so traceable.
As you listened in from the far side of the beach hut's thin walls, you learned of these facts. But you'd already given the victim the poison at that point. It was too late. So you hatched a plan to disguise your mistake. And a plan that involved stabbing the victim in the back through the read screen.
Objection!
But what good could that possibly do? Isn't it obvious, counsel? The plan was to kill Miss Brett before the poison could take effect.
Once in the blood, the poison causes the onset of pupil constriction, but he had hoped to precipitate the victim's death before that happened, hadn't he?
Exactly. Because without any revealing signs of the new secret poison's use, no one would have ever suspected.
This is extraordinary!
Yes, the effects of the poison meant it would be too easily identified, so the killer had to mask its use. Which he attempted to do by plunging a knife into the middle of the victim's back.
Order, order, order! The argument presented is sound. The court is satisfied that it warrants consideration. Does the prosecution have a counter-argument it wishes to put forward?
There are a number of... yes! I counter completely!
Objection!
The prosecution's evasive response clearly shows that in much the same way he nurtures the remnants of his top knot, he is clinging to lost hope. Lost hope?! Does someone say hope?
Alright. Here we go. He's gonna... Bro.
Ugh! You pathetic, useless fallen samurai! Fallen! You claim fallen might be groaning Grothis. I do not need a counter-argument! What? What are you talking about? It should be blatantly obvious! I stole the poison, you say. Grave it! Give it to the victim, you say. Stabbed her, you say. Lots of fine theories. But I don't need a counter-argument because you don't have an argument yourself. Where's your evidence? Here we go. Yes, you make it all sound so plausible, don't you? But without evidence, it means nothing. Whereas I base my news on facts.
Facts? What do you mean? Explain yourself.
I mean what the professor said earlier this trial. It's all here. In my many memos. Every word, every slip of the tongue, all noted. That's what the Shinju news is famous for. The power of the printed word.
But surely we know okay, I'm sorry to steal a highly secret toxin being developed from the government.
Indeed, all visitors to the laboratory are thoroughly searched when they leave. Even if a thief managed to avoid being seen by myself or a colleague, getting the poison out would be very difficult. How's that then? Blowing the story wide open? See, I rattan memento, a mere reporter from the Serial News. Couldn't possibly have stolen the poison from the professor's laboratory. Ugh! Shut the fuck. But there can't be any question of it. He must have stolen the poison that day. He stole it and used it to kill. And if that's the case, as you've identified, the poison itself is the definitive evidence we need. Because whoever stole it from the laboratory that day is the true culprit here. What's your point, you annoyingly handsome country bumpkin? Bro! Annoyingly handsome Sasuto. That's her new title. My point is this. There is one way that you, Memento-san, could have stolen the poison that day.
I've heard enough verbal conjecture now, thank you. What the court must be shown is evidence. What proof do you have that this witness stole the poison on the day in question?
Take that!
The proof, Your Excellency, is this fountain pen.
Huh! A fountain pen? How can that possibly be relevant?
These magical pens somehow seem to have enough ink to write many thousands of kanji characters. I believe they arrived in our country for the first time some 15 years ago now. I swear by the weasel hair caliphy brush and nothing else! These newfangled pens are merely a fad!
Well, as a forward-thinking man of words, I have loved my fountain pen. To suck up the soupon of such ink, then one's work is awash with words of a blink of an eye.
That's right. Fountain pens have a small reservoir in the barrel, into which ink is sucked up through the nib of the pen in order to write with later. What does all this talking of sucking up have? Ah! And it's just possible to suck up ink into the reservoir. It's also possible to eject it through the nib again, of course.
My word! Can this really be?
Annoyingly handsome Sasuto. Well, Memento-san. When you saw the deadly poison before your eyes in the laboratory that day, you used your fountain pen, your very lifeblood, to steal some of it, didn't you? By siphoning the poison up through the nib and into the pen's reservoir. Ah!
Objection!
More obscenity! That never happened? True, we've heard that there were procedures in place to prevent thefts like this from the laboratory. But would anyone have thought to look inside a fountain pen of all places?
No, I'm a little ashamed to say. For fear of offending our guests, such a detailed search would not have been conducted. Well, this is quite startling, I must say.
I remind the court that this pen was found in the clutches of the victim when she died. In other words, it was dropped at the scene by Memento-san. So the crucial question is, when exactly was the pin dropped?
Are you suggesting...
The natural conclusion is that in your haste to act whilst the victim was distracted for a moment, you dropped the pin after you emptied the poison into her glass.
Objection!
There could be any number of alternative explanations. For example, the witness could have been using his pen to write down details of his conversation with the victim. And when she knocked by shocked by one of her outrageous answers, the pin fell from his quivering hand.
Objection!
No, that can't be. If it was, how do you explain why the pin was devoid of ink? What? As you can see for yourself, if you examine the evidence, there would appear to be no ink present in the reservoir. What newspaper reporter goes to interview someone with nothing in his pen? No, the pen was dropped after the poison that filled its reservoir had been emptied into the victim's glass.
Witness, what have you to say in your defense? This is how our modern justice system works, is it? You keep saying that. So what if the ink in my pen runs dry? So what if my pencil snaps? All 73. Ah! I can always claw my way back into the game. I have plenty in reserve. Bro, he's got Wolverine pencils over here. Bro, he has so many. Ha! Dude, he threw them. Dude, everyone's scared. His action shots are pretty good. You claim I sucked the poison up into my pen? That's a wild speculation, nothing more. If you ought to think you bring down a fine, I'm saying something like a trick like that, think again! Spoken like a real murderer. Well, they're going to be taking one final decisive blow to finish this matter. As I see it, the situation is now very simple. Rests upon whether or not this witness did indeed steal the poison on the day in question. And therefore, it all depends upon whether or not the defense can prove that he did it with evidence. Ha! No such evidence can possibly exist. Liar. Memento-san, this is how our modern justice system works. Oops, sorry. What? What happened to your voice? In the courtroom, evidence is everything. Something you would do well to remember. Because we're well past the point of speculation at this stage, I assure you. Very well then. I call upon the defense to present the aforementioned evidence. This is it then. This will be the final piece in the puzzle. The defense can prove, by means of this item, that it was a witness's pen that was used to steal the poison.
Take that!
Counsel, what is that bottle?
This bottle contains a unique chemical reagent that can identify the poison in question. Ah!
Yes, that poison is an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids developed by my colleagues and I. It would be impossible to detect traces of it by any other method.
Or, from another perspective, simply with this chemical reagent, anybody at all could check for traces of the poison.
A reagent? What?
One drop of the contents of this bottle on the tip of your fountain pen, Memento-san, is all it will take to solve this case beyond reasonable doubt.
On breakdown time. No, you can't! I won't! Your crimes are bad enough. At least know when to admit defeat.
Your Excellency, the defense requests permission to carry out the test of the fountain pen at once.
Ah! This isn't my fault! The Empire drove me to this destroy the heist, foreign powers from the part of the form of the mighty pen I thought entirely battlefield for years. If injustice and righteousness and mementoism. Whoa, what? Sasato, what's me? Wait, what? What's happening? I'm there. What? Did they just throw him? Did I do it right? That was a Sasato takedown, wasn't it? Bro. Not quite. That was a Ryutaru takedown. Bro. The instant the first drop of the rigid touched the nib of the fountain pen, it was clear to everyone present. When I saw it there in the lab, the poison, the devil got hold of me, and I decided to do it on a whim. I excused myself and emptied all the ink down the sink in the bathroom, washing the reservoir out carefully. And then you waited for an opportunity to suck up some of the poison, didn't you? Sorry, into your fountain pen. Yes, that's right. Answer me one thing, Memento-san. Why did you steal it? For what purpose? Isn't it obvious? To find out what it was made of, and expose it in an article. I mean, it was a secret project after all. Too juicy for a journal like me to pass up.
Then why did the English woman end up dead?
I went into that hut intending to quiz her on her situation. That's all, as a reporter. A known killer, enjoying full freedom, evading justice by leaving the country. I told her what I thought about it. And she just laughed in my face!
Oh, what's this? A Far Eastern caveman purporting to practice journalism?
He's evil, Haru.
Really, you must know the difference between reporting and listening at doorways, you ignorant plebeian.
What? What did you call me?
This country, with its pretensions to a justice system, to a free press, it's really very depressing. You see our superior ways in the West, yet you lack the mental capacity to emulate them. Get out of here, you oaf. Get out and crawl back into the cave you came from.
She just got the better of him, that was it. That's what I remembered. About the deadly poison I happened to have in my pen at the time. What a terrible tale. In my head, I knew I should just get out of there as quickly as possible, but I couldn't! I couldn't let her get away with that, what she'd done, but she clearly had no remorse at all. I suppose it was my journo spirit, getting all fired up. I mean, there are worse motives to kill people for. I'd like to ask you something. Yes? You often talk about justice. But surely, as a journalist, you could have used other means to deliver the justice you sought. There's no justice in the press. Sorry? After that trial 9 months ago, I kept digging and digging to find out what had happened in that courtroom. And finally, I discovered the truth. It was a cover-up! That's what it was! A cover-up? What do you mean? I want to remind you of your position, witness. Be careful of what you say. Oh, come on! Doesn't it strike you as strange? We're all suddenly not allowed to convict a foreign national? Consular jurisdiction should never have come into it. And yet that puffed-up Englishwoman was going to sail away into the sunset a free woman. The only possible explanation is that, behind the scenes, some deal had gone down between Britain and Japan. What sort of deal? I'm done my research, dig up all the dirt. It was all ready to be published. But you know what happened? The editor just tore the article up. He came under pressure from the government, you mean? If our government is going to let criminals walk free, if they're going to crush the free press, then what choice do I have but to see that justice is done myself? Let's not forget, Memento-san, that you committed murder yourself, and you tried to lay the blame at the defendant's door. I'm sorry, but you're no better than Giselle Brett. What? The truth is, you have no right to talk about justice at all. I suppose there's no justice in the press. It would appear that we've reached a conclusion in this trial at last. Counsel for the defense, Ryutaru Naruhado. Oh, yes, sorry, Your Excellency. Just musing in a little manly way here. It's almost unbelievable that this is your first experience of the Supreme Court. It was an excellent performance. In truth, they very much reminded me of your cousin's exploits. Oh, Naruhado. Ryu's Nasoke, you mean? The way he handled the trial 9 months ago and the way you handled this one gives me hope that we are genuinely entering a new era of justice in this land.
is very flattering, Your Excellency.
Hearing the defense you put forward today made me feel most keenly that the future of our justice system will be forged by you and your I can't read.
Thank you.
So, Prosecutor Ayuchi, do you have any final thoughts?
What? Prosecutor Ayuchi? I, Taguchi of the Ayuchi clan, have been bested by a fellow youth not once now, but twice. If there was any shred of my former self left, it has withered and died here today. Gosh, your journey to cultural enlightenment sure took a while, didn't it? Silence! Rather than living on in shame, I will end it all now with this blade. For the true path of Ayuchiism!
Ayuchiism? One hopes that's the only way with which he'll be modeling himself after the witness.
Sprig of my topknot, the time is right for farewell. Hope is lost forever. Takatsuichi.
Don't do it! Made him bald! Just giving him respects! Bro, everyone's giving him a moment. Bald! Bald! Everyone's doing it. Where have you been? Oh my god. Oh, this game is good. Now, in regard to the defendant, Ray Mimbermi-san.
Yes, Your Excellency?
I have reached my final verdict. I hereby find you not guilty. Now get out of my house.
The cherry blossoms. Yo, Sasato did it. She did the thing.
Now you're a man. Court is adjourned.
Unnecessary cherry blossoms. The same as unnecessary confetti. There's just no cherry blossoms. There's no confetti in the freaking whatever era this is. 2:30 p.m. Defendant's antechamber, number 3. It's over. My heart is still pounding in my chest, though. My throat still hurts from my solid snake impression. So all I can do just to stay standing. Lawyers have such great responsibility, such great burden to bear. Don't they, Noroharu-san? Sasato! Thank you so much. You were so dashing in there. Right, and Father. Honestly, I'm so touched by everything you've... Oh no, I think I'm gonna cry. It wasn't easy, but together we made it. I was on the verge of tears at the end, too. The only reason I'm still here is because of you. Oh no, I can't take all the credit. It took courage to tell the truth in there. You did wonderfully, Ray. So I would have to say that the congratulations belong to you. Sasato, don't be so standoffish. Sorry? We're friends, equals, and the trial's over. There's no more of this formal super humility nonsense. It's time to celebrate with swagger. Throw caution to the wind. Caution to the... What? The great defense lawyer Ryotaro Naruhado, and I'm taking you out to a milk bar tomorrow. Or something. Right, I see. I'll think about it, Ray. At any rate, we really knocked the wind out of that horrid man, and it felt good. So good. Yes, it was so satisfying. It really was. Isn't there anyone else we could throw together? Is there anyone else but anybody else we could throw together? Looks at Dad. I hope you're not looking at me, Ray. Oh, my goodness, no, of course not. Of course not. Ah, there it is at last. Ray's lovely smile.
You fought for your friend to the very last. As your father, I'm extremely proud of you. Defense attorney Ryutaro Naruhado. Thank you, but I couldn't have done it without your help. Anyway, it's time to bid farewell to Ryutaro, I think. I shall miss him in a way, but it's back to Sasato Migatoba now. I shall miss him in a way. So I'll never see him again then. What a terrible shame. What is happening? What? Wait, who's wedding? What are you two? Oh. What is happening? Wait. Ah, Sosuke-san and Inspector Hasanaga. I do hope you've been keeping well. Is that really you? Oh. Yes, I had to change my appearance for, well, obvious reasons, I hope. But it's me. Sasato Migatoba. Oh, God. I don't... So dashing, so divine. No! Doubly dashing, yes, and devilishly divine. Just look at you. I had no idea, Miss Sasato-san Esquires, that you were a locum student Naruhado-san Esquire's cousin. Oh my god. Astonishingly astounding ace attorney! Bro. Poor Sosuke-san, so confused. I still remember the first time I ever met him. He was in a prison cell in London. What an extraordinary conundrum that it was that the unwitting student from Japan found himself embroiled in. After Naruhado-san's skillful defense at the Old Bailey, Sosuke-san was free to return to Japan. And now he seems to have earned himself great fame as an author. Alright, I'm stunned! That's a truly impressive disguise. Even I had no idea, and I'm the chief inspector of the police bureau. Who came up with Mr. Turtle, no less? I'm not sure you should be admitting that, Inspector. Amazing. You're a woman of many faces, I see. Just two, really. And this was a once-in-a-lifetime event, I hope. Well, yeah, there's no sequels. Oh, and I'm not a patch on you, though, Inspector. Well, I am a professional, of course. I do worry about Inspector Hasanaga sometimes. I really do. 9 months ago, when he appeared here at the Supreme Court to testify, he was undercover, disguised as the head waiter of a restaurant. And then on the steamship to Great Britain, of course, disguised as a sailor to keep us safe on the journey. No, not all of us, though that didn't really help you, did it, Kazuma-sama? From my perspective, I have to admit that I have mixed feelings about all this. I mean, now that the truth has been lost forever. What do you mean? I'm talking about the murder that the Englishwoman committed at the end of last year. Ah yes, it was an English doctor she killed, as I understand it. Dr. John H. Wilson. Yes, and the man I invited to Japan personally. The mystery is, why did she kill him? And now that the culprit herself is dead, we'll probably never know the answer. On the voyage to Great Britain, we had a most unexpected encounter with Mr. Herlock Sholmes, the Greek detective, I mean. Yes, I remember Mr. Sholmes well, of course. Ah! My arch-nemesis, how lightly you utter his name. Well, according to the stories published about him in The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, the detective once had a partner who helped him solve crimes, a best friend. And that man was an exceptional doctor of medicine, by the name of John H. Wilson. What? Dr. Wilson? I just can't believe that it's a coincidence. I think that the English doctor of medicine killed here in Japan 9 months ago must have been the friend and partner of Mr. Sholmes. Do you know Migatoba? And if that's really true, then the poor girl, who won't ever see her beloved father again. Yeah, the thing I accidentally recapped at the beginning of the stream. As you know, I traveled to Great Britain once myself to study. It was around the time you were born. Yes, grandmother told me about it. When returning to Japan, I took up my professorship at the Imperial Yumi University. I also served another role as an advisor to the government on diplomatic affairs. Yes, I was aware of that as well. In that case, I'm sure you understand that there are some confidential matters I cannot divulge to you. Baby! Could you just tell me one thing?
Why did you summon me back to Japan? It's been 2 months now since I returned. When I left England, it was because an urgent telegram had arrived from Japan. It said that you collapsed with a high fever, and you were growing weaker by the day. What? When did that news come from? That's why I'd like to know, because after that long sea voyage, I found you in fine health, Father. Was there something in Great Britain you perceived might inconvenience me in some way, or harm me? That's really the only explanation I could think of. Dear me. Do you reserve your most cutting glares for your father, Sasato? I'm sorry, my dear. I simply can't. Ah! Let me go! Wait, what? Wait, what? Why? Memento-san! So, one throw was enough for you! I've got one last thing to say before they take me away! Professor! Me? I know the truth! I know you had a hand in what went on! That vanishing student's fate! Visiting student? Giselle Brett, you mean? No, not her! The student of law who left for Britain 8 months ago! What? Student of law? He must mean Kazuma-sama! What are you talking about? What does it have to do with Kazuma-sama? Nobody here in Japan knows anything about it! They don't know that the guy never made it to England! That he died on that steamship! And that he'll never... Ah! What, the judge?! Well, I didn't expect to find him in here. Wait a minute. Hold the phone! What the... What are you officers playing at? Terribly sorry, Your Excellency! Hakai. I was coming to tell you that the rickshaws arrived, Yujin. It's a good job I came by. Yes, thank you for dealing with him. And I'll be there shortly. Oh, Your Excellency. The trial's over. I am not Your Excellency anymore. Merely your father's friend, Shishiro Hajiko. Or does that say Jigoku? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Goku's here! I slay as the gift of prophecy. And I may say that since I saw you last, you seem to have taken a more dashing appearance. Sasato. The judge knew? No way! Did you know all along from the start of the trial? A judge sees everything, Sasato. I couldn't let you take the risk. If Sashiro here hadn't known, and then he'd recognize you, I had a word with his ear beforehand, as an old friend. So, Sashiro, shall we? Yes, having ruled on that case, we now have various diplomatic issues to address. Before you go, Father. Sorry, my dear. We shall have to return to our earlier conversation at a later date. But well done again, both of you. You did admirably. Oh. Thank you very much. What did you think of my Shishiro sling, eh? It's been a while since I sent a man flying like that. He has a name for it, too. These guys are such nerds. They're all weebs, all of them. The Minato showed me a vision. Whatever could Father be hiding from me? About Giselle Brett. About Dr. Wilson. And now it seems, according to the reporter, about Kazuma-sama. I'm going to have to bring this up with Father sometime. When nobody else is around. Judicial Assistant Mikitoba-san Esquires, could I have a word? Oh, yes, of course, Sasaki-san. What is it? I think perhaps it could be fate that we're meeting again like this now. You see, there's something I need to tell you. Oh? I believe that it may be related to the reason why your father summoned you back from England. This I have to hear. Please, Soseki-san, tell me at once. I will! As you know, my time in England was terrible. Cursed, I have no doubt. Such awful things I was embroiled in. Thank goodness. Low-cum student Naruhado-san Esquire stepped in. Bro, the mouth vomit that is that title. After he secured my freedom, I couldn't wait to get on a ship back here to my homeland. Having arrived in Japan, I submitted a report about my experiences at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The next thing I knew, I had a visitor. It was your father, Professor Mikitoba. He wanted to ask me all sorts of things about my report. My father? He seemed to be especially taken with a particular part of the report. Anyway, he left eventually, having thoroughly quizzed me. But it was very next day that he sent the telegram to you asking you to return to Japan. Wait.
How did he... He was the victim of the final trial. How did he get home? Wait, what trial was he in? I don't remember who was in the victim in the final trial. Because I feel like that time frame doesn't add up. I don't know. It probably does. What was it then? The particular part my father was interested in? I don't really know exactly. But do you remember them? Those 2 terrible cases I was caught up in. Of course, I can never forget. Your father seemed to concern himself mainly with the second case. The second one? You mean the one Mr. Sholmes forbade any of us to talk about in public? Which is why only case involving you that any member of the public is aware of is the first. Well, I don't care! I don't have to listen to what the Dastardly Detective says! Anyway, the point is, it seems that the case somehow holds key to all of these curious, unanswered questions. That horrific, hideous, heinous case. The case of the haunted lodgings. Wait, what? Haunted lodgings. That case somehow caused my father to summon me urgently back to Japan? I thought the whole business was over, but it seems I was wrong. Perhaps that was only the start. Perhaps the story is not yet told. We gotta go back! Back to England!
So, the mystery of that English woman's death is solved, thank goodness. And having stood in the Supreme Court now, I think I can comprehend a little better. How you must be feeling as you fight for people's freedom in a foreign land, Naruhodo-san. But actually, I'm writing to you today because of another matter. I met Sosek-san and we talked about that second case he was involved in. Father has said nothing to me, but I feel certain of it. That case holds the key to some great unsolved mystery. My notes on the case should still be in the office, tucked away at the back of the shelves on the left. Perhaps you might like to look over them again. Today, for the first time this year, it feels as though summer has arrived. The sky is a brilliant blue. It makes me long to see you again. Yours, Susato.
Dang, yours. Okay. Susato. They gotta meet back up. If they don't, I'm gonna be depressed! You can't see it. It says end behind Aqua's head. Dang, we gotta go back to England. Sasato's success awarded. We've done it! Oh, goodness. Well, I actually didn't think we'd get through it in time, but since once right after we came back from the stream cutting out, and they were going like final cross examination, like okay, a little longer than I expected, but still shorter than I expected, which is good. Otherwise, we wouldn't have done it today. So today is Monday, right? Or Tuesday now? Yes. So that means the next stream of this, where the next case will continue, will be next Monday then. So if you're interested in keeping up on it, that is when we are going to continue. I'm going to try and do this weekly until we start. I do start maybe doing Christmas movie streams for up to Christmas. So, and then obviously the week of Christmas will probably be, more all over the place. We probably won't be having anything. Yeah, probably not. Oh, look, I get my normal day off on Christmas, so I probably won't have to work anyway. Oh, well. Anyway, so we'll sort that stuff out. So we probably got about 2 more weeks worth of streams after this week is over, so there you go. So, but next stream then, unless I do a middle of the night stream like I've been doing sometimes, next stream will be Friday. We're going to continue Pokemon XD's story. We finished the first little arc chapter in that game last time, so, and I did a little bit of like Pokecoupon grinding for the Pokemon, so if you are interested, I would recommend catching up briefly if you're interested in the story of it. If not, You can, because you know that some of you may have missed the beginning of it. So if that's interest to you, yeah, I guess you've got till Friday. So have a good night, guys. I will see you guys in the next stream on Friday for more Pokemon. Have a good night, and I'll see you guys then. Bye bye, everybody.